The Rupert chair. I'm gonna make one.
Yeah.
That's really fun. No, to us. Oh. Yeah, it's not. I sometimes. Oh, I find my feet. But my God, are we ready? Everybody ready? Everybody ready? I'm not ready. Got it. Got it. I'd like to call to order the Monday, May 19th, 2025 regular meeting of the Huron City Board of Education. You call the roll, please.
Mrs. Henners,
Present.
Dr. LaFay,
Here.
Mr. Rager,
Here.
Mrs. Hartley,
Here.
Mrs. Mast.
Here. If everyone could please stand with us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We need an approval of tonight's regular meeting agenda. So, okay. Second.
Dr. LaFay,
Yes.
Mrs. Henners,
Yes.
Mr. Rager,
Yes.
Mrs. Hartley.
Yes. Yes, thank you. We are on item number 3, audience community comments. You have any? Okay. All right. We will move on. Administrative reports.
Yeah, excellent. So for the first building or department report, we want to recognize our Huron retirees, and they're all from Woodlands. So we're going to turn it over to Brian to be the MC here.
Awesome. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much to the members of the board, staff, families, and members of our great Huron community. Tonight, I have a true honor of recognizing 4 unique, passionate, and dedicated individuals that have made a lasting impact on our Huron community. So first up, I will talk about each one of them individually. First up, Carolyn Oakes. For over 11 years, Carolyn has faithfully served as an assistant cook at both McCormick and Woodlands. And even before that, she spent several years subbing in our cafeterias, always showing up with a can-do attitude and a heart full of kindness. Just think for a moment, over those many years, how many thousands of lunches has she served? And more importantly, how many smiles has she shared with our students? Because here's what I believe. Every part of a child's day is an opportunity to make a difference. Whether in a classroom, the hallway, or the lunch line, every moment matters. And over the past 2 years especially, I've had the chance to really observe Carolyn's daily approach with students. It's been nothing short of amazing. She doesn't just serve food, she serves care, consistency, and joy. Every day she greets students with a warm smile, friendly conversation, and genuine kindness. It's these moments, small as they may seem, that can lift a child's entire day. And Carolyn has lifted more days than we could ever count. But her impact goes beyond the cafeteria. Carolyn has also stepped in as a substitute in our before and after school child care programs, always ready to help out whenever she is needed. And let me tell you from firsthand experience, when I've needed someone to step in to ensure students were safe and cared for, Carolyn has always answered the call. No hesitation, no questions, just a willingness to go above and beyond for our kids. On a personal note, I will sincerely miss our daily hellos, and yes, me singing to her as I grabbed my lunch. Carolyn has always had a way of keeping me in check, especially when it came to reminding me to eat my fruits and vegetables. That's just who she is, caring, consistent, and quietly looking out for those around her. Carolyn, as you look back on your time in Huron City Schools, I hope you feel a deep and well-deserved sense of pride. The difference you've made may not always have come from fanfare, but it's real, it's meaningful, and it will last far beyond your final days. From all of us, thank you. Thank you for your service, your heart, and your unwavering dedication to our students and staff. Not here, though. Next up is Deb Finney. Yes. Tonight, again, I have the distinct honor and privilege of recognizing someone who has been an extraordinary part of our school, family, and our community for over 30 years, Miss Deb Finney. Deb's career is not just marked by longevity, but by a legacy of deep and lasting impact. For more than 3 decades, she has made a difference in the lives of students, families, and fellow educators. When we pause and think of the many children who have walked into her classroom and left more confident, more capable, and inspired, it's nothing short of remarkable. She has touched countless lives with her compassion, dedication, and unwavering belief in every child's potential. Deb's legacy will not fade with her retirement. It will continue to live on through her traditions she started, like the Kindness Rocks initiative that brought hope and positivity to our entire school community, or the incredible yearly student book project that allowed children to not only dream, but to see their dreams in print. These aren't just activities. They are milestones in students' lives, memories they'll carry forever. Deb has always held herself and her students to the highest standards. You could feel it walking to her classroom, where learning was challenging, engaging, and always rooted in care. Many parents over the years have come to me to share how lucky they felt to have their child in her classroom. That kind of feedback speaks volumes. On a personal note, I want to say how much I will miss Deb, not only as a colleague, but as a friend. Her collaborative spirit, her dedication to doing what's best for kids, and her presence on our team have meant the world to me. Over the years, we've built something truly special, not just this professional partnership, but a friendship that I'll carry with me always. Our hallways will miss her smile, they will miss her laugh, and I know many of us will miss the sense of calm, joy, and commitment she brought to every day. But tonight's not a goodbye. This is a proud moment, a moment to reflect, to celebrate, to be grateful. To have your career is something we truly cherish. You leave behind a legacy that will be left for many years to come. So instead of goodbye, I'll simply say, see you soon, my friend.
Deb, before you sit down, the board has a small, very small token of our appreciation. It's a lifetime pass for
Next up is Dee Frosto. Yes. Again, tonight I have had the honor of recognizing someone who has devoted over 30 years to making a real lasting difference in the lives of students, families, and colleagues, Miss Dee Frosto. For more than 3 decades, Dee has been a powerful presence in our great community, shaping young minds, building confidence in students, and helping them discover their true potential. Think about that. 30 years of care, consistency, and commitment. Think about the many lives she has impacted along the way. The students who left her classroom stronger and more capable, and families who felt comfort knowing their child was being taught and cared for by someone so special. At Woodlands, the love and care Dee shows her students is something we all witness on a daily basis. Her classroom has always been a place of warmth, structure, and genuine connection. Over the last 11 years that I've had the privilege of watching her bring out the best in her students, pushing them, encouraging them, and most importantly, advocating fiercely to make sure they receive the supports and services they need to succeed. That's something you've never wavered on, Dee, over the years. I often tell Dee after evaluation that her instructional approach is magical, and I truly mean that. There's a unique magic in the way she teaches. It's in her tone, her energy, and her presence. She has a way of drawing every student into a lesson, making sure each one feels a sense seen, heard, and involved. And if someone isn't engaged, she finds a way every time. But Dee's impact doesn't stop with students. As a leader, I value direct and honest feedback, and Dee has always provided just that. Over the years, her insight, her honesty, and her support have helped me grow both personally and professionally. I always knew her feedback came from a place of care and investment in our shared goal, doing what's best for our students. Dee, I'll always be thankful for your trust, your honesty, and your belief in me. One thing I'll absolutely miss, and I mean this, is our nightly routine. For the last 11 years, at the end of each day, Dee and I would say goodbye and take a few moments to catch up. Those small conversations, those daily connections, they matter. And I know that the first day without them next year is going to feel different. Dee, when you take a moment to reflect on your incredible career, I hope you feel nothing but pride. You've made a difference not only within the walls of your classroom, but throughout all of Woodlands and the entire city of Huron. You're an amazing educator, a passionate advocate, a trusted colleague, and most of all, someone who truly made a difference. So this is your moment, and it's so well deserved. Congratulations on your retirement. And as always, this isn't goodbye. It's just see you soon. And last but not least, Karen Berry. It's an honor and a privilege to stand before you tonight to recognize and celebrate someone who has been the heart and soul of early childhood education in Huron for many years, Miss Karen Berry. For more than 30 years, Karen has made a profound and lasting difference in the lives of so many children and families in our great community. Think of how many little ones began their educational journey with Karen by their side, offering guidance, compassion, and structure during those crucial first years. The impact she has had isn't just meaningful, it's foundational. Karen didn't just teach preschool, she built Huron's preschool program. The strong foundation and the stellar reputation our program enjoys today is because of her vision, her leadership, and her unwavering standards. The respect this program receives across our community and beyond is a direct reflection of Karen's commitment and excellence. Let me share a quick story that speaks volumes. During our most recent audit, the auditors made it very clear. They insisted on auditing our preschool program again this year. When I asked them why, they said without hesitation, we just love the atmosphere of your preschool and the way everything is organized. It's a model program. That's not just a compliment. That's a testament to Karen's work. Every label bin, every perfectly filed document, and every student's smile, it all reflects her high standards and passion. Over the past 10 years, Karen has also helped me grow professionally in more ways than I can count. When I started at Shawnee 11 years ago, she took me under her wing, offered steady guidance, and honest advice. That mentorship and her friendship have meant more to me than words can say. Karen, you always hold a special place in my heart for the support and wisdom you gave me, especially in those early days. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our shared taste in music. Some of my favorite moments were ending a long day with a few laughs and a great music playing in the background. Those small, meaningful moments I'll truly miss. Karen, your influence can be seen throughout the district, in our hallways, in our classrooms, and even on our Ohio State test results. That the foundation you laid with each preschooler set them on a path for success that echoes well beyond their first classroom. You've touched so many lives, students, families, and colleagues alike. You've truly made a difference, and your legacy will continue to shine for years to come throughout Woodlands and the entire city of Huron. So tonight we say thank you. Thank you for your dedication, your leadership, your friendship, and your heart. Be proud, Karen, because everything you've done will continue to make a difference long after this moment. This isn't goodbye, just a heartfelt see you soon, my friend. Congratulations to all retirees. I love you guys all so much. You always have a special place in my heart. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. Excellent job. Thank you, retirees. Congratulations on reaching this milestone. And as Brian said, always please stop in, visit, and if you want to start subbing again, then we'll welcome you back. Touch on that, of course. All right. All right, we'll move to Grant, our student liaison.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, retirees. Yeah, you guys have done amazing work. I just wanted to say that real quick. But a lot has been going on around the schools lately. Before the last meeting, that weekend was the junior class trip. It was amazing. The experience was like no other I've ever had. So, and everyone had fun. So it was a small group, but we all had a lot of fun on that. And then last week was the middle school dance on Friday. I heard really good things from that. And then this weekend was also prom. It was a great first experience, I would say, for prom, and I've heard everyone liked it, so that's a good thing to hear. A bit before that, though, too, final state tests were done, and I've heard the scores also came out pretty well on that, too. Just this past week as well, track has won both SBC championships, which was pretty cool to see. I believe all other sports are doing well. I haven't heard a ton from them, but I haven't heard anything bad. And then this is the seniors' last week as well, so it's going to be weird to see them gone, but congratulations to the class of 2025.
You guys will be happy to have some extra parking spots, won't you?
Oh, yeah.
Grant, where was prom held this year?
It was at BGSU Fire Islands.
At the Cedar Point Center?
Yep.
How did that go? Everyone liked that
Yeah,
change?
BGSU was very open to having us there, and they were extremely helpful. I was on the committee helping to set up everything, and they did a lot. Like, for cleanup the next day, they came outside, they were like, we did it for you guys. We're like, oh, okay. And they gave us food. I mean, they did so much for us. I mean, nothing that we even imagined. And then the night before, there was actually a symphony there, and the symphony donated flowers to us. So we got a bunch of flower sets for prom as well. So it was beautiful, man.
Great. Thanks.
Evening, and before I give my report, I'd also like to say thank you to our retirees. I'm gonna get all choked up. You guys have been awesome to me since I've been here, and I've learned from each and every one of you, and I will hold that dearly. And as I go forward, I'll hope in the powers of the three of you to say, what would they have done? So enjoy, and yes, please stay in touch. So Brian, you did a great job. You got me all emotional. So with that, I did want to talk about tonight. We had a culminating activity last Monday at Kalahari with the Erie and Sandusky County Juniors and Seniors Career Fair. So we started planning that a core group of us across Erie County, and with the idea, again, harnessing the benefits of the Business Advisory Council. So in that group, a smaller group coming together to bring students together for this experience. So we had about 70 different regional employers on site, and we used the U Science school data to develop passports. So each student had 2 aptitude areas and 1 interest area, and they had 20 minutes to hit 3 different spaces, if you will. So the big, huge ballroom was transformed. They did a really nice job. The kids were color-coded. And we took about 160 students between the juniors and seniors. So we showed up and we showed out. So again, the preparation that the teachers did, our kids looked great. They looked professional. We had some kids do some self-edits and perhaps go home and change and come back. That was good too. So there was interviews on the spot. So they not only color-coded everything, logistically they had sets of balloons. So for employers that were on the spot doing interviews. So whether it be for summer, when you graduate, those kind of things. So kids could take their resumes. We have a meeting coming up next week, I believe. So we'll do some debriefing with that to see, what we're supposed to get a survey. I haven't seen one yet, but and then get the feedback, and then build an opportunity out. So the next question is, as you can imagine, there's a lot of logistics that go into this. We were able to finance it through a lot of donations and in-kind kinds of things. So is this become a one-year thing? Do we do it every other year? What are people thinking about? So that would be kind of like the next decision point, I think, based on the outcome. But I thought it was good. I don't know. I'm a little biased. So, yeah. Thanks.
All right. So the financial report for April, we are 83% of the way through the fiscal year. So for our revenues, we just crossed 100% of our projections in both in all funds and in the general fund. So things are looking good. What we had projected originally back in November, we didn't really have a total evaluation number. So we took a stab at it and we came in a little higher. So that's pretty good. As far as expenditures go, we're running under on expenditures. So we're at 75% in all funds and 73% in the general fund. So I'm anticipating low 90s from where we projected. So there's a little bit of a savings there. Donations, $12,583.46 to several different scholarships, and then the Offer of Evelyn Dance fundraiser that occurred. Okay, the item C is the 5-year forecast. I gave you guys two different versions. The first version is, so the revenues and expenses on both are the exact same. The main difference on this May update is the transfers. So when we're talking about potential legislation, particularly House Bill 96, where they're discussing the 30% cap on carryover. So on the top one is what it would look like if we weren't doing massive, if we don't do massive transfers. So our balance is well over the 30% threshold. It's up in, I think it's 60% is what it would be. So assuming that legislation takes effect, we'll be over that cap. And then what I'm hearing is then they wouldn't collect any tax revenues for us, assuming the Budget Commission votes to do that. So the first one is that. The second one I have for you is on that same line. I highlighted it. That's how much we would really need to transfer to stay under that cap. As of right now, I went a little bit below that. That's about 27%. So it's a substantial amount of money that we were going to have to move to stay under that cap. That is the forecast I'm recommending, and the reasoning is to stay ahead of this legislation if it passes. It would go into an 070 account, which is easier to transfer back to the general fund if need be than if we put it in the PI fund. So that's why, and actually I think it's D on my report, is the setup of those funds. The other one is an 035, which is a severance and termination benefits. We pay those out every year anyway, so we're going to set up a fund and set money specifically aside for that. And I think I put 100,000 in there, which should cover us for this year for sure. As far as revenues, like I said, we took a shot in November at what we thought the valuations would be. We shot it a little low, so revenues came in a little bit higher than the November forecast. And your big savings on the expenditures so far have been purchase services. Right now, we're going through all of our open POs and trying to contact vendors and make sure we don't have any outstanding invoices and close those. So I'm thinking that this is about the number that we'll be at. It could vary a little bit by the next month and a half, depending on what's still outstanding. FY25, so this year was the first year that we got to see half. So if you remember in the fall, our tax collection was still from the valuations of the previous year. So moving into 26, that's why you see that jump in revenue here. We're going to see the full benefit of those new valuations. Let's see if I have anything else. Yeah, so like I said, my recommendation for now, just to kind of stay ahead of it, we talked to bond counsel too on this, and they said, hey, what are you planning on doing for that 30% potential? And I said, well, we'll discuss it, and then we're looking at, in June when we do our transfers. They're like, I don't know that I would wait. So that's kind of why I have it on here for you tonight, kind of recommendation from bond counsel. Anything on the 5-year?
How does that impact the resolution we put ahead of?
Yeah. So we went back
policy
to the
that we put
policy
in, yeah.
because we have that policy for 50%. So basically, if we happen to fall below that, which we will here, Dr. Tapman and I will come with the policy says to come with a plan to fix it. I guess that's what we'll do for now. And I think what we're going to end up having to do, depending again on legislation, is just reevaluate the policy.
And how does that impact how does bond council feel that's going to impact the ratings if we do get a bond structure? Does that money we're transferring go into that calculation or no? For our ratings?
I'll have to ask them about that on the ratings. What it does do is it will bridge that gap for the between the bond amount and the amount of money for the project. It'll bridge that gap to where we won't have to do a COPS or anything. But we did ask them about that, and I think that they said they'd get back to us on how that's going to possibly affect. We're not really going to have assuming this takes effect, we're not really going to have much of a choice, and everybody's going to kind of be in the same boat. So.
I mean, this is like the first time in I can't tell you how many years there's not been a deficit spending
Right.
on the 5-year forecast. It's pretty incredible.
It's a good thing.
I kind of want to frame it.
Item D is the new funds I was talking about. The 070, which is the capital projects. Really, it can be used for just like a PI fund, anything with a greater than 5-year life expectancy. And then the 035, which is the severance and termination benefits fund. And then item E under my report is the actual transfers that are there. So you can see we have 5.7 going to the 070 account, and then 100,000 to the 035. And then when we move into June, we'll do the other transfers that I'm anticipating, which will be like the food service, athletics, and grant funds that are negative until our PCRs come in.
Just for clarification, the severance, that's because public employees get to cash out their sick time, and so it's not a
Right,
it's not
right,
a
correct.
fund for like
No,
it's just
no.
more of
Yeah.
a unique thing about public services that like unused sick time that can be cashed out is called severance.
Correct.
And, okay,
Yep, a
thank you.
portion of their unused sick time can be used as a severance package. So,
Thank
yep,
you.
Yep.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Mike? We'll move on to Dr. Chapman.
Okay, I'll start with the agenda items and then move to some other items. The first, item A, is the list of graduates. So there's 100 graduates for the class of 2025. And this is still contingent upon satisfaction of all requirements, but that is our anticipated graduation class. Item B and C are for special education programming for students who need specialized services and then transportation to it. Item D is a re-roof over the high school's weight room and locker room. That, according to the Tremco preventative maintenance service that we have, that is the worst spot of roofing. And so it's like we probably should have done it a year ago, but we've been delaying it and we can't delay it any longer. So that would just go into, assuming the bond passes and we start looking at a major renovation and some additions, that part could come out of that scope of work, but we need to get it done sooner than that. Item E is acceptance of a scholarship through BASA's Global Leadership Development Program. So this is a multi-state program where for Ohio, there's 5 or 6 districts that have been awarded this. Essentially, it's a scholarship to pay for global leadership development where the superintendent will go study and learn about programming, international programming, and how that could be brought into Huron schools. We already have some international travel experiences. As I was submitting the application, I came at it from a perspective of our work with the Business Advisory Council, BAC, and how we're preparing our students for workforce in an international, with an international lens. And so looking at what are ways we can incorporate that will be explored on that opportunity. Item F are certified personnel. So we have a few retirements, and then we also have continuation of services for special ed consulting from Holly Charville, our former director. Allison Litz is going to provide some Orton Gillingham summer reading tutoring services. Molly Ryan's doing similar. And then Amy Jeremy, who's in the audience tonight, is on the agenda for our next, our new intervention specialist. As a reminder, Jess Taylor is an intervention specialist for us. She's advancing into assistant principal at Woodlands. So that created the opportunity, and we're excited to have Amy. Summer Work Institute. Julie, do you want to add any comment about that other than?
So just real quick, we have carryover funds that the state redispersed through 2A from districts that didn't use their funds this year. We were notified late. So in doing so, we put out teachers that they could submit proposals to do curriculum, instruction, assessment work over the summer. So what you see before you are the list of individuals that submitted projects, and their timeline is they can have it done by that second week in August. So some of them are working. This is kind of neat. Some of them are working individually. Some of them are working as groups. Some of them are working individually and in groups, and some of them are also bringing in friends from other districts that our district will award contact hours. We're not paying them, but we have some staff like wanting to expand their network and pick other people's brains and say, "Come on in." So it was neat to see all their proposals. Looking forward to it.
Julie was the one that organized it, put out the request for proposals and analyzed them and then awarded them. So thanks, Julie. And then the last item for certified are extended school days for next school year, mostly for school counselors and then for band. Personnel classified items. We have continuation of the food service consultant, continuation of the communication consultant, and then we have Kathleen Hovey. Is that right, Jan? Hovey? She'll be joining us as the assistant cook at Woodlands. And then Jane Tigas. She has interest in subbing for us, specifically looking at bus driving. So we're going to get her going with the coursework and certification part. And then item H are supplementals. So this month is the first month where we start approving for the next school year. Majority of these are continuations of, so people who held it previously. 2 new head coaches. One would be bowling. We have Jordan Sutzman, who is looking to be the new bowling coach. And then our new cheer coach, Sayer is your last name. Thank you, Caitlin Sayer. And so she went through the interview process. We had a good pool of candidates, and she rose to the top. So we're excited to have the board be able to recommend her to the board. And then for personnel stipends, we have, again, first month of the new year where we have the large grouping of ticket takers, event workers, gate workers, things like that. Also the intervention assistance team, coaches. So at each grade level, there's one there. There'll be additional ones in months moving forward as we get going. But this is sort of the initial big drop of people. Any questions on the items? Yes, we've always had a large staff of football coaches, and they split contracts. So I think the total FTE is 6, but then they split, like somebody takes a half or a quarter and shares it. So the head coach and the coaches work that out and make it work. So.
It's been a lot. I've asked about it before too. Just noted.
Okay. And then not on the agenda, but just to recap for the board. Last week, the Erie County BAC, Business Advisory Council, they've been hosting all year a series of career summits. Last week was their 3rd career summit, and they had breakout sessions. I was invited to be a presenter at one of the sessions, which was administrative support for career readiness. So myself and the high school principal from Bellevue, we really did a gallery walk where we had some different themes, and we had them put ideas, and then like a share out, and found it beneficial because we could facilitate the conversation. But even I walked away with some new ideas and things like that. So so that was fun and a way to give back to the BAC and share different ideas that's happening in our region related to work and career readiness. Next is that last week I attended the North Points Regional Superintendent meeting, and former State Senator Randy Gardner came and presented. shared about all the happenings at the state level, specifically about the budget, which a lot of the stuff Mike talked about. He is currently serving as the executive director for the Coalition of Rural and Appalachian Schools. So this is a newer advocacy group. He equated it to the advocacy services that are OSBA, BASA, and OASBA. Mike, what's your group called?
OASBO.
OASBO, thanks. Similar that they do, but they do it with that lens of the rural or Appalachian schools. So he gave some examples of how his work with different state legislators has been able to move a few needles on areas of interest for those types of schools. So continue to study that group and see if that's something that Huron might benefit from joining. And then also last week, it was a busy week, we have North Point students. We host a classroom here, so we had North Point graduation. This is at the parents' discretion or the students' discretion. Sometimes students don't want to be in that large commencement ceremony, out on the sometimes hot turf and everything else. So they facilitate a North Point graduation here, and it was well done. Led by Tim Lamb and his administrative team. Students from the high school's TLC group participated, so it wasn't just the two kids, but it was like a group of kids. Our choir sang the alma mater, and we had a student, I forget her name.
Claire Doctor.
That's right. Claire sang the national anthem, and it was great to have that special moment. And we were able to. Tim was able to share a little bit of the students' aspirations for moving forward and what they're planning to do after high school. So that was great. And then looking forward, we've been working with the Greater Sandusky Partnership. They've sort of absorbed all the different local Chamber of Commerce. And so they're working on different programming. And one that they're looking to restore is the State of Huron. So like State of the Schools, State of the Community, State of Huron. So they've set a date. It's June 11th. And it's going to be again at the Cedar Point Center because they're good hosts. It starts at 5:30, and they're talking about an agenda that's not simply a 90-minute sit and get, but different panels. So there'll be like an educational panel, so school representative, BG Firelands representative, and I think Yehovah. And then they'll have a city township representative panel, and then some time for networking. So people can get up, walk around, talk to different entities, and learn more. So. More will come on that. They'll start promoting it here, but save the date for that June 11th in the evening, 5:30. And then, just want to make sure I talked about that. And then the last is that this week I got an email letter from our Director of Operations, Mr. Carter. And so instead of me trying to relay it, I asked if he could come tonight and just read it. It's in recognition of our transportation department and their efforts this spring.
Thanks, Dr. Chapman. Yeah, I sent James an email last week because we're slowly closing in the last 3 weeks of school, and it's spring break or springtime's very busy time, anyways, in the transportation world. But I just wanted to let him know and let you guys know that I'd like to take a moment to formally recognize the exceptional dedication and professionalism demonstrated by the Huron City Schools Transportation Department over the last 3 months. During this period, our transportation team has ensured the successful and timely coordination of over 170 athletic and field trips, along with the coverage of vacant morning and afternoon routes daily. Because of this commitment, our students and athletes have been transported to and from school and events safely and reliably, often outside the regular school hours and under tight scheduling demands. This level of support is a testament of their unwavering commitment to the student safety and the overall success of our district programs. I'd like to acknowledge the following individuals for their outstanding efforts: Tracy Yost, Kim Wire, Tammy Schleenbaker, David Buszczek, Jeff Niebler, Aggie Schaefer, and Pete Zimmerman. Their work behind the scenes has been instrumental in maintaining the high standards we strive for at Huron City Schools. And like I said, I'd just like to extend our sincere gratitude for their timeless effort. So, thank you.
Yeah, and I would say even an example of this would be Friday. So Friday we had 6 routes and 5 drivers. And so I said, Chad, what are we going to do? And he said, we'll get it done. So the one route we spliced up, and we did a couple double loops with getting the kids home safely. It did take a little longer than we anticipated. We were anticipating 5 to 10 minutes. It pushed 20 minutes for some, but we were able to get the kids home safe, and it was a team effort. And then this morning, I was driving this morning, and I could hear chatter on the radio. Apparently, I missed someone at a stop, and we got them. So that was what I was gonna say. Like, I heard all this chatter on the radio, and I didn't know exactly everything they were saying because maybe they have a little bus lingo that I'm still learning. But I knew that someone behind me was coming with a bus and was going to get that kid and got that kid to school. So they work as a team, and they're passionate about their work, which means that sometimes that causes friction. And so a little bit of friction is okay. We just need to make sure that we're always coming back to developing that positive culture and keeping our eye on the focus, which is student safety and student transportation. So thank you, Chad, and all the drivers, really. So unless there's any questions, that's my report for tonight.
Questions? Need a motion to approve agenda items in sections 5 through 7.
Second.
Mrs. Sinners? Mr. Rager?
Yes.
Dr. LaFay? Mrs. Hartley?
Yes. Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Congratulations, Amy. Congratulations.
Good to see you in that. Yeah.
Item 9. All right, so item 9.
Before we start item 9, you guys have been sitting here so patiently. Please don't feel like you have to stay.
Retired now. I'm surprised you guys.
Hardest since time.
We appreciate you coming, and we appreciate
You're
your
welcome to
service.
stay.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah, take this. So last month, the board approved 2 resolutions, one special need and one necessity for the bonds. So this month, there's the second resolution for the necessity for bonds. So approval of this will mean that we are on the ballot in November of 2025 for a bond issue. It's for $77.5 million, which isn't the full, as Mike shared already. That's not the full scope of the cost of the project, but using some of this money transfer, cash on hand. Example would be the sale of Shawnee. And then also, if we had to, we could do a COPS to borrow against our PI. That makes up the difference. And so really when people say, hey, like, are you going to turn off some of those emergency levies? We're redirecting those emergency levies right now to fund this project. So by being able to do that, it lowered the bond debt amount that we have to ask for. And so the millage works out to be
6.98.
6.98, so under 7 mils. And that's because we're going to other fund sources to help round out the project. Any other questions for Mike or I about this item?
I don't know about the item, but I guess I just, when do you anticipate there being a levy committee or bond committee put together? When do we anticipate, literature coming out, talking points for the board? People always want to know, well, what is this going to cost me? I guess I'm looking at this and it's, roughly about 5.5 months away that people are going to be voting on this. And while I understand the necessity, I just feel like it's 5.5 months, and I don't know that our community has been educated about it, and I want the best for our district, and I want this to be successful.
I'm just not sure of where we are, as far as organization and that
Yeah,
kind
so
of
I'll
thing.
just remind the board that at the start of this school year, we formed a community-based a community facilities committee. I can't talk tonight. And so really the work of that community facility group drove the direction of this scope of work. It changed us from, originally OFCC said brand new pre-K-12. And we all were like, no way, right? And so then we moved towards, let's make some improvement at Woodlands and build a new 6 through 12. And the committee really, that's where they started from. And they grew into this idea of the bones of both these campuses are good. If we make renovations to these campuses, put some more square footage on these campuses, it will meet the needs of what we need for learning, instruction for the students. And so the whole concept of the scope of work that's coming was driven from that community-based group. I believe that there are community members on that group who are ready to shift from a finance committee group or a facility committee group over to a bond levy campaign group. And as a reminder, the Ohio has sort of redefined what superintendent and treasurers and even board members are able to do with campaigning for a levy. We can come to meetings that we're invited to and present facts, but we can't be the rah-rah guy out there leading the work and getting it done. It needs to be a true community effort. And so I think from that facility committee group, there will be those in the community that will step up and say, I believe in this plan and I'm ready to communicate it out to the public and get going. I think some are sort of waiting to make sure that, because they don't want to communicate too soon, and then it's not coming to fruition. So I know Beth and Chris were on that committee group, so I don't know if you have more comments.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely have a gentleman who's already stepped forward and said he would spearhead a living committee, which is nice to have. And I think that the beauty of having done that and having it be so large is that each individual member would be asking along the way, like, can I be talking to my circle about this? And so I don't think it's going to be a surprise when it comes out. Obviously, they'll right.
Excuse me, the committee wanted to wait till the board signaled that we wanted to go to the ballot. So with the second resolution before we reconvened and either pushed for more info from ABG or starting that bond committee. That was kind of what the direction was. They just wanted to make sure that things were going to progress because it is pretty much this time. You're right. I mean, you got to get that going. We're going to.
Maybe to echo that the work you guys did was great. The committee did. My concern is the timeline to go from where things are now to being able to be like to get the electorate to vote on it. And I am concerned in kind of like judging how successful projects have been approved by voters in other districts. It seems like the timeline between that signal that you're talking about and going to the ballot sometimes is more like a year than where we're at now. And I guess my concern would be if we go too fast, if we put it on in November without kind of all of the hype, the education, the debate, like leading into all of that, and we get a no, does that, like, what does that do to our process if we're able to get a yes down the pike? I personally believe that, like, we shouldn't be putting a levy on unless it's a major general election. I don't think it's the right thing to do to put it, sneak it on in like May or August, like some districts do, just because you're asking the whole community to bear a load, right? So I just throw that out there as like one possibility being, could we do something as a board to give that signal that you're talking about, Chris, to the committee, to whoever wants to be on the committee, but give them a longer timeline, like maybe March of 2026, to be able to kind of get that, all that momentum, all that communication, even on our end, the AVG, like a little bit more of the tangible kind of plans. So that I get the like chicken egg, what comes first, but I fear that you've not left ourselves enough time to be successful in November. That's just my personal concern.
Ward's worked on this for 2 years prior to me joining. I don't know how many 2 more years of the work we've done the last year and a half is. How much more of a signal that I think we're looking at a project, right? I mean, we've been 2 different architect firms, many months of 2 different committees, basically. If the timing's not right, it's not right. But you don't really want to have that, all those renderings, that final, what it's going to look like until you're a lot closer to the election. And everybody we've talked with, and I'm on the board for Yehovia and for representing us, and they went, obviously they have a little bit different group, constituents they're looking for getting support from, but they, even AVG has talked to us about like making sure you have that pizzazz like closer to the election. Like you don't want to let that wane either. So like if you say you go to March and you have AVG go and do a bunch of work in the summer or whatever, and they come out with like, here's what it's all going to look like. We're all done. We maybe some things change, but there's a lot of talk too about that could wane, and the excitement will dwindle by the time you get to that election too. So we probably have to balance that a little bit.
I think for me, well, and just things we're going through, right, with our own personal households right now too, is just the volatility in the economy right now, and understanding that, as we see a healthy 5-year forecast, that's because a lot of individuals and homeowners are paying more in taxes, and I think, I don't know, I guess maybe I could see waiting a little bit longer, and I don't know what a timeline is. Like if we still move and take action now, but if it's to push it out, we know it's going to happen. Committee can start working, and that gives them ample time. I don't know if an economy can settle down a little bit and people have a little bit more sure footing, and kind of get a little bit more acclimated to the existing taxes and the new collection rates. I could see maybe a benefit to that.
The gentleman that has said he would step up and head up a levy committee. Has he run a levy before? Has he done that before? I don't think I have to keep it a secret. It's Sims Wiki. So
Things in the resolutions, do they have to change and do a first one over again if you want to go? Were they worded for this fall, or do you have to start over?
Yeah, they were worded for the November election.
I think what this board needs to decide is are we ready to just throw this out there and hope that I've not been part of your communities, but it sounds like they've been running well and people are engaged, and so there's probably been a lot of work that's been done behind the scenes that the rest of us aren't privy to. There has to be a community education piece and engaged, but they have to, whoever is on the committee has to. It feels deflating, I'm not gonna lie. And I guess if we push it back to March and it doesn't pass, you could ask the same question, then what are we gonna do then? So, I guess, will this community ever be ready for that? Well, and that's a very valid question. Having been through
several levy committee planning things and levies that have failed. It takes a lot of work. It's not engaging our community is hard work. Really hard work. You know, it's been said probably ad nauseum. You know, we have an aging community. We have people that don't have a lot of extra margin, and I think those people already are being taxed real estate wise more, and then to bring this to our voters, I guess I'm just doing stuff. And not that you guys haven't done the work. You guys have done the work. I just don't want it to be for nothing, and I don't want it to be the right time. And I'm a little concerned with the timeline.
The tax, the bond levy we're asking for, or the bond issue we're asking for, is slightly higher than the amount we gained with the tax changes this year in the valuation. And the goal would be to adjust those figures. I mean, we don't need to collect that extra $2 million. That we kind of, this year we didn't have really time to respond because we talked last time about you have to do that in November. Tell the tax commission like, hey, we don't need that this year. So because I asked James and Mike outside in a separate meeting how that works, if we wanted to go like halfway through the year and say, hey, we don't really need like all of this, but you have to tell them in November, like, yeah, pause for this year for the following year or whatever. So we are where we are this year with it, right? Because it was like you were notified right in November, you had to tell them right away, which we were still evaluating everything, and so we got those funds this year. We're looking to move them maybe to a 70 fund, to work towards this goal. But I think the long-term goal with the bond passage would be to adjust those emergency levies and everything, so it ends up, it's going to be a little higher than now, but it's not a lot of a difference when you do all the figures.
I guess, is there a disadvantage to giving a group that might be working to get passage an extra couple of months to get word out? It's a primary for gubernatorial race.
So, on your need, I mean,
I had my notes because it's been a couple months since I ran through it, and I thought it was closer to 6 months than a year, but.
I would just remind the board that the work came out of that community committee. So they had several meetings, 5 or 6, and they worked through different concepts. They had those subgroups that looked at different elements of the whole. And so it's really the voice of the committee, which is representative of the community, saying that this is the proposed solution for the long-term facility needs of Huron. It wasn't created by an outside architect. It wasn't created by the executives, Mike and I. It was created by the community who spent their time giving input, considering facts, studying, and then coming out. And those participants were recruited, I believe, by board members, trying to find people who were influential in the community, also that covered different circles or networks within the community. So we didn't have just a bunch of like retirees or a bunch of PTO moms, or we had a good representation of the whole. And so I just want to remind the board that that's where this work came out of, not, you know, which is the people, I mean, which are the people, so.
Did we have a lot of retirees on the fixed income serving on the committee?
I don't think there, at least from my perspective, it's not a question about the work that was done, especially the work that was done, like, but what do we need? What do we need? What's it gonna cost, right? Like, that's work that whether it goes on the ballot in November or it goes on in 2026, like, that's good work that will be used, like, hard stop, right? So that, I don't want any takeaway about, this is a different question, and that is, okay, now how do we shift into, as a community, like going out and educating this broad base of voters, frankly, many of whom might either be completely not, because even though we've been public about it, we know people pay attention to what they want to pay attention to. They may not know anything about it and be starting at square one, or in some cases, you know, there might be some resistance. Like, how do you at least educate that body of voters so that they can make a decision? So it's, to me, it's not a referendum at all on did the community and the folks who serve on that committee do good work of representing the community. I 100% think they did. Now it's just a timing of how you enter the ballot and how much time you need to bring the rest of the community along. And I am concerned about rushing that, because I think Cynthia is not saying that, especially in this economy.
Need to decide whether we want to put it on the ballot in November or March. And that sounds like we're leaning toward March.
Well, I think that is still to be determined.
I know, I'm just stating facts that have gone around the
Yeah.
table right now, so instead of like, I guess, does anybody have any more points to make instead of chewing the fat a little bit, then maybe we could.
I guess my point would be, having done this multiple times, if it was me and I was on the committee, I would want as much time as possible to get organized, to get word out, to get print materials, to be able to have town halls, meetings in people's neighborhoods. And maybe whoever's doing this has a schedule for all that, and once this is approved, then man, tomorrow they're gonna hit the ground running and all this stuff is gonna happen. But I think it's just so imperative to be organized and know what's your plan of attack. So, personally, I would like, if it was me, I would want as much time as humanly possible to get my team together and know what we were doing. So, I'm done.
Sort of approve this, that would give them the, all right, there's a right, maybe different timing, but if we might, and that would go.
Talk at the last meeting, full meeting we had, was mostly around, a lot of people didn't want to do much more until we passed the second resolution that says put it on the ballot. Honestly, I mean, that was if you guys heard it different,
No, and I mean, because you can't get funding, you can't really do anything until you have a timeline. You can get a plan together, which we did, we had an outline. And some of the things that we were working on were like looking toward how we could have.
whether that second resolution is for this November, next March, the following November, like, I mean, we could do them now, right, or whatever, they just have to have them by probably a certain time frame.
Yeah, I would think we'd have to start over, but we could do it sooner than later, you know.
So if it's not this November, what would need to be done?
I have to check with bond council, but I would think the two resolutions we passed last month would have to come before the board again with the new dates. and there's probably like the consultant that helps with the finance part. He might say, well, it's kind of hard to predict what an interest rate will be out that far, and the interest rate estimate is required in those resolutions. So I mean, he would make the best guess, but that could create uncertainty. And so legal counsel might say it doesn't make sense to do it this soon from a procedural standpoint. I don't know. I didn't ask him that question, so I don't know.
There's a question. Even if we didn't do something that was right, it's like, you know, the technical steps you can even on that ballot. Putting the word like just passing sort of resolution with a general, like, advice to the, striking other people like, okay, like the board set a direction. This may be a step that has to be nice, but
I might be fine with, I know at EHOVI we did like probably April, like last month when we passed the first resolution here, they did kind of like a resolution in name. It wasn't the first one, it was like we intend to pursue this project,
Yeah.
and then the next month or whatever, or maybe a month later we did the first one and the second following month. So they really didn't have all this stuff done and, you know, to go on the ballot until very close to that July 8th, but they had passed the intent kind of prior to that by a month or so, prior to starting, you know, the technical resolution.
So I'm hearing if we do something, right, like even if it's symbolic, soon, now, whenever, that clearly states like this is a time frame, this is when, and then when the formal documents come to us, maybe closer, so that that exact amount that goes in, but then a levy committee could start organizing and going like, okay, like the board has said, this is what is going to happen.
They need to know how much they need to know the ins and outs of the money. So like how much we're asking for, right?
Yeah, I guess I feel like I'm wondering if that's maybe just like that is one data point, but there's so much other information and organization to happen and structure and figure out how are they going to pay for all of it, right? Like all of those things that they could be working on, knowing that like this is going to happen and this is when it's going to happen, and so building out the timeline, just like if you're planning an event or something, and having a little bit more time, build out the timeline. And then if it's like, they'll have the data point of the exact amount with whenever we get the word that this is when we can know when it would be, they'll have that data point, but then they have everything else like ready to go and can plug in that piece. Like if they have 9 months to do it instead of 5 months to do it, just more time to plan.
Probably also going to raise the project another $5 million. It's been at least 5% a year.
I feel frustrated a little bit
So-
because we've had this discussion over and over, and we were all still kind of talking toward November. I feel like if it's like, oh, the final day, and now we're having this discussion. Like, why didn't we have it last month? But
I think I've shared my concerns all along about the timeline on this. I've had concerns all along that I thought we needed a year from the inception of this to putting something on the ballot. So, I mean,
I appreciate it.
no, it's fine, but I totally understand your frustration. You and Chris have put a lot of time and effort into this, and I get it. And I don't think anyone is saying you've done a bad job, or anyone is trying to say, I think it's just our concern with the timeline. We want this to be successful. We want our community to be informed, and so I guess that was my initial question.
So we started the two-step drafts of the resolutions early in case there were issues, in case there were, I mean, we didn't wait till like the 2 months right before it's due in July. What if we have the facility committee meet, lay out what the bond levy team would plan, and we could always bring it back next month if there's a really good plan. There's still time. I mean, that would have to be done next month. I mean, it would have to be.
Yeah, so our
June,
next
yeah.
our next meeting is late June. So we'd have to be there. Bond council would say we could do a special meeting up
Have a couple
until,
weeks still
yeah.
in there.
but
So it's July.
it's really June.
July.
Correct.
I'm not suggesting we do it. I'm just saying maybe we bring the facility committee back together and talk about that transition. What the community feels is 5 months enough, or is a year enough? Or whatever.
And it's interesting because in my mind, it's like two distinct phases. Like the work that the community group did, knowing that like we're going to plan this out for 9 or 10 months, and we're going to take it slow and break it in, so people have a really good understanding of what this is and everything that goes into it, and they can process it and digest it and talk to people, and then what comes out of it is coming from that group, right? Which you said it really changed it based on where we thought we were a year ago, right? And then we changed our work. And then in my mind, it's like, okay, that is the critical first phase. That's the what. It's defining the like, what are we going to do? What is it that's the right fit for the community? And then it's a second phase of now how are we going to accomplish that? But like the actual doing it then. So that's where in my mind, like I'm fine, and because I've known Jody has said all along, like try to get a year. I'm comfortable with less than a year, but coming up on like 4 or 5 months, that makes me a little nervous. And only because I want whoever's going to be on that committee, I want to give them as much time to be as effective as they want to be. But I agree, like drawing it out too long. And I guess I just want to say, like in my mind, it's not a divert, it's not a change the plan, it's not that kind of a thing. It's like this is, you all have defined what it is we're going to do and what is the best fit. It's how do we get the how done effectively, in my mind.
So by that, is it more that? So you're saying have the group come back together prior to the next board
I'm
meeting?
just trying to find a middle ground here to see
But is
where
the
we
group
can
coming back
go.
together as like a levy group, and they're talking strategy and things like that?
I know that's, I mean, it gets
'Cause then-
really gray really fast of what we can be part of. That's why we haven't had more of a robust discussion about it in that committee up until this point, other than designating some leaders and them getting an outline together.
Because it sounds like we're not necessarily talking anymore about like tweaks to the plan. It's how do we market the plan, and that to me is a levy committee that Mike and I for sure can't be part of. Legal guidance would say that board members outside of a board meeting are like private residents, private citizens, so they could be more engaged than what we can be.
I frame it a little bit different. I think for us is how do we push time is reasonable for like the education, debate, and decision process to take place for the community. So we're not taking a stand for the or against, right? And we know that, but like how, like what's the reasonable time frame for that? And I think the plan is, is achievable. So, right, you're right. We can't know how do we best position this. I think as a voter, I'd like to see be successful. You know, at some point, like this is it's not going away. These buildings aren't going to suddenly get younger or more safe for our community. We know that. But that's really I think for us here now is just what's the time frame to allow this education debate to be reasonable. I mean, I don't know what of this can be like salvaged quickly and just like a quick tweak. I don't know what takes like what the shelf life is for the calculations, right? And then at what point you have to recalculate.
All the stuff they've given so far is calendar, it's based on a calendar year, so it's, yeah. They just, I mean, and a lot of it's just calculations, right? So they'll reset the rates next January, and it'll say it's 5 million more. And until we have every design done and, you know, T crossed and I dotted in those plans, you don't know that number for sure. All an estimate at this point, right?
How do we want to proceed? What is, if was talk of a resolution for, not a resolution for the bond, but a resolution for the scope of work for the project. Is there a way for us to basically pass a resolution? That's significant.
Already resolved the necessity.
I think this action item is this specific document, right, for November 25. So then we would have to take a vote on it, turn it down.
This is
Withdraw it.
pulled out. Yeah, we
Yeah.
could table it.
Yeah.
After this is, if it were, hypothetically, if it were to be voted on and passed, it wouldn't even be official until I send it off to the Board of Elections to be certified. So it could be one of those things where, and I'm not telling you what to do, but you could pass it and I not send it until maybe, or we could table it for next month. I think both would be options.
So this says have to have this to the Erie County Board of Elections no later than July 29th for the November 4th election. But what we're talking about is March, so that date would have to change, correct?
Yes.
The rate.
Yes. I'm assuming, well, potentially the cost, like Chris said, the cost of the project would have to be probably reassessed, check, see about rates, and then the dates, obviously.
Yeah.
Right, so it's, okay. But we can lock something in, you know, in perpetuity. But when to find the mechanism to be support for the project.
This discussion's probably enough if we want them to like. I think people just wanted to know like we were looking to go forward. I mean, we put the two resolutions as a guide for like immediate for November. Like, yeah, we're gonna be on November's ballot. We need to get everything going. But
I don't.
if we're just saying, yeah, we like this idea, this project, then it's probably enough to get people back together. Honestly, I mean, I don't think they need us.
The Board of Election magic and.
Proceed with the vote. We're just tabling it? Okay.
I would hate for them to take away the, like, they know that anything other than concerned about timing. Because for me, that's all it is.
Move to item number 10. This is a motion to go into executive session for the reason of the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against an employee, official, or student, unless such individual requests a public hearing. So moved.
we anticipate action after?
That we
Right.
would like.
Oh, is that 3 more actions?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we will be back in session after that. Okay.
Mrs. Hartley,
Yes.
Mrs. Sinners,
Yes.
Dr. LaFay, Mr. Rager,
Yes.
Mrs. Mass.
Yes, thank you.
I'm hoping we figure out yeah. I've kept it all this time. Yeah.
It's like the man's hair.
Yeah. Oh.
I remember having to work many hours for that.
Yeah, everybody knows she saves money because she's making her dress, but the material and the time is ridiculous.
Right.
All right.
You're back.
So the next item under board discussion and action is letter A, is investigative services. So Venice Solutions Group is a private investigation service. They can provide service with investigating complaints and help relieve that administrative burden or that investigative burden off the administrative staff, and also serve as a like outside third-party neutral entity. Is there any questions on it? Or any other discussion? Sure. Okay. We'll just be looking for a motion.
Do we need a motion to say yes, we want to hire Venice? Okay. I'll make a motion that the Huron City Schools employ Venice Solutions Group for investigatory purposes.
Second.
Mrs. Mast,
Yes.
Mr. Rager,
Yes.
Dr. LaFay, Mrs. Henners, Mrs. Hartley.
Yes.
And item B is a student safety work session. So at the special meeting, the board asked the motion to hold a work session sometime in June or July, with the topic being the focus on student safety, both student on student and student on staff. So I guess I'd like to use tonight's meeting to just learn more from the board about what is a little more detail on what's the focus of that work session, so that as we prepare materials and agenda, we come ready so that we meet your expectations, and then go from there.
Are we thinking of employing somebody to come in and present this to the board, and then from that presentation, we come up with the student safety plan, or are we coming up with this ourselves?
So I work for a large employer, educational employer. We have mandated trainings every year. These are all done through a platform online. There's Title IX, there's workplace safety, there's preventing sexual violence. It is at your own pace. You log in, much like we just did with the other one about the cybersecurity. So I'm familiar with that type. It's been effective for me. So I would encourage, and I'm sure that there are things out there like that wouldn't require a staff member to get trained in something specific. Paying for one person, I'm sure they're not cheap. But I know that there are some platforms out there. I think I would love to see not just our staff. I would love to see something for students that they go through and have the opportunity to learn. And then I think it would be really great to have something for parents. I know in the past when the district has tried to do things for parents about internet safety and things like that, it can be mixed. But I think that there can be ways, and the Department of Education for Ohio may have, I think there was something that was developed, and I'm not clear if it's for staff or for families, but I think it's really important for everybody to kind of understand the baseline, like understand what the professional code of conduct is for our educators. What expectations should they have for how professionals conduct themselves? What are appropriate boundaries? And in a small town, that's really hard. Things we talked about before, but I think for some things, I think it can help delineate those for the students and also for the parents who are interested in learning those things.
Yeah, it could be expanded to any adult
volunteer space. Yeah. Yeah. I'd go even a step further than that. That's when you think about like um, volunteers that we have control over, and then people have access to our kids that we don't, and maybe even watching, like, can we identify maybe where we have some blurry lines, and while we may not necessarily have the ability to background check or get people activity permits for those folks, we can't control who gets to come certain places on our property or during certain events, right? So it may be that we just need to tighten up some of our borders, for lack of a better word, in that regard.
Yeah, and I volunteer as a chaperone to drive for the Catholic school for field trip. I can't do that unless I've taken the online learning about how to keep kids safe. So there are certain institutions, I know there's one that's been mentioned before by an athletic parent for coaching and for athletic environment. So I know that they're out there, and maybe some are appropriate for certain populations of students.
I think the key is, and I guess, James, to kind of answer your specific question, which is like, how do you best prepare is, I think this will work when we're all students, parents, employees, like working off like a simple and aligned program, for lack of a better word. We're speaking the same language. We may be learning different things because maybe only certain things are pertinent to certain populations, but it's a unified approach. And so I don't know what that is, who has the best practice for that. I feel like we're not inventing fire. Somebody's probably already done this homework well. And our job is to kind of like find it and then figure out how do we, make it work here in Huron. But that's what I would envision is like some sort of unified program standard model, and then we figure out how to drive it to the different populations. I think online's a great option. I don't think everybody learns, like this cowgirl does not learn well in an online learning. And I think a lot of parents or maybe students, it might be a mix of some train the trainer, some online, to reach people where they are and where they best learn. And then, where do we already have opportunities with parents, with students that we can build this into? So maybe it's like beginning of the year kind of stuff. Maybe it's, student assembly, something like that. But so that everybody walks away knowing what their rights and responsibilities, and really like where, like you said, like what is and isn't generally okay. We know that there's always going to be pushing of those boundaries, but it's nice to be able to find where our hard lines in the sand are.
What will be our measurables though from doing something like this? How will we know that
The survey.
this has been communicated well, and that will it be? I don't know. I mean, I think you can do online classes. You can verbally tell somebody you can't do that, but they're still going to do it.
But then the precedent has been set so that we can refer back to funding that is for training
Policy.
you were informed of your violation.
This is like a hard reset, right? And we know that we're going up against a history where lines have been blurred, maybe what's okay, has been unclear. We've even, past boards or past administration has been unclear. So this is a hard reset. And then I think it's really easier to hold people accountable to the line when it's really clear where it's at.
No, with that.
Yeah, and I think the students, I think in my experience, students do a really good job when you give them the information and empower them. And then they can support one another when somebody is saying something. They'll be like, hang on a second, are you okay? And kind of check in with each other about that, and be able to identify where there might be some points of tension that maybe need to get a little bit of intervention, and where do they go with that?
Do we have and I'm embarrassed if the answer is yes, and you should know this, but I'll ask. Do we have like like a reporting line that, like, if we have a concern, do we feel
have
like we
anonymous.
market that to where, let's say you're on the school board, you would know about that? I just, or that,
It's on the web.
It's on the website. I believe it's in the student handbooks. It should be posted in the offices and counselors' offices, cafeterias, things like that. It's the state of Ohio's Safer School hotline, and so anonymous calls can be made. I believe they take emails too, and then they direct it back to the school district of origin. So that's a way for anonymous to have. You can leave your name, but yeah. So we're part of that. There is a legislative code that requires us to have some sort of mechanism like that, and the state of Ohio provides that one. When they first started offering it, it was not that well done, but now it's well monitored, and we get calls. They assess the complaint, and if it's like an emergency and it's 2 o'clock on a Wednesday night, they don't call us. They call the local law enforcement to intervene, like a claim of self-harm. If it's like a claim of bullying, they'll call us the next day or send us the email the next day to say, hey, here's what came in, they identified your school, take action. So it is more responsive. When they first started, it was like 2 months later, you got this thing. It's like, okay, well, that was no help. So, but it is much better now.
To our point about this work project, that's something we could highlight in training.
Yeah. And
Everyone
how
would know about it.
it's communicated.
Here's a recourse.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm thinking too, like existing trainings, and then considering where do we have gaps, where do we need to expand training, where do we maybe need to do something totally different. Review of the code of conduct would be good. That's set by the Ohio's Office of Professional Conduct, and I would say most educators are aware that it exists, but could they tell you 3 of the 9 tenets? Maybe not, right? So having a better working knowledge of that would be good. So talk in our work session, talking about that and how we can communicate it out. And you're right, when staff come back for the new school year in August, there is an opportunity there for like a full day of PD. They do like some set up your room time, so balancing, what we need to get done with what they want to get done would happen. But yeah, we can work on that sort of at our work session. We can work on those potential agenda ideas for that return to work staff day that all staff are at. So
You remember when it was not this school opening, but it must have been the previous year? You had a gentleman come in from the law firm, and he did an incredible presentation on Title IX. What it is, what it isn't, how you report it, how long it takes. I thought it was very informative, and it was Title IX for those who aren't in law. And it was very understandable. I don't know if there would be something like that for a PD in the opening of school, that someone could come in and say, this is what FERPA is, this is what it isn't, this is that.
yes, I would say that was my first year in the district, and coming in, I was aware of concerns about conduct and understanding boundaries, and specifically with Title IX and application of Title IX regulations. So yeah, we had the legal counsel come in and present. I thought he made it like Title IX for Dummies, kind of like understandable,
really
right?
did.
Yep.
You really
And
did.
at least you left there with at least enough information that if something was going on, you'd pause and say, I need to find out more from like a supervisor, or go study myself more about this Title IX to like dig into this kind of idea. So it's not going to cover every scenario and every possibility, but it's going to make you more aware and sensitive. So if you're presented with a concern, you're going to take it for what it is and not brush it off as, I got to focus on instruction, I don't have time for that. Yeah.
Thinking of 2 pieces of legislation that I think are kind of newer. I have Aaron's Law, which is to prevent, and that's mandated, like curriculum or something, but I feel like this is part of that. So that's something that you would come to us and say, and this is what it is, and this is where we do it, with where we have that education piece with students. So for us to be able to understand what that looks like, there is a new grooming law in the state of Ohio. So it is going to look at the conduct of people who are grooming minors. differently, and that there are criminal penalties for that now, and that's a new law. That is separate.
This is like
Aaron's
it's in the
law is
criminal
about the education.
Yeah, this is in the criminal code.
So now there's criminal code about grooming, not just outright abuse.
All right, I think I have enough to work with, Julie. You're gonna help me, right?
And I think what we envision there is like nothing like heavy. Like, you know, I'm a lawyer and even I only want to sit with the law so long, right? We know that our policies sometimes are like brutally written in a way that if you could say it in 6 words, they use, 600. Like, I think what we're looking for is definitely more along that lines of what's accessible, high level, like easy to understand. Because we don't need people to be lawyers or experts. We just need people to be able to like flag issues, spot behaviors, and then know what to do with them, right? I mean, as a community, that really should be what success looks like.
Yeah.
Sorry, and I have a terrible cold. I apologize. So, talking about like an online platform. So, we use Public School Works for training. Okay. So, are you thinking in terms of we're on the mandate rotation, if you will, when we work with our lovely person that helps with our accounts. We go through that annual, this is what's due this year for all staff. It's on a 2-year rotation, and this is on a 3-year rotation. So are you thinking in addition to those videos that we watch and that we do, or would that be something that we would roll those videos off to accomplish?
I don't know what those videos are, but I think if we have a work session, I think that's the kind of thing for you to say, these are the things we're already doing. And then, for us to say, because I'm coming from my perspective of like what I, as a staff member and a mandated Title IX reporter, what I see, and so what helps my understanding. So you may have something that is similar to that already, and then can say, okay, we've got that checked off. I don't know what is done currently, but I think that's the work session is to talk about that and share ideas.
If there's a way to identify like that gold standard or something benchmarkable, whether you need to get some help to do that. I mean, I'm not saying you guys know what's the best one out there, but a lot of us referenced in previous discussion, like I worked with Scouts and they changed their program I think 3 times in the 9 years, but to try to keep getting better. Churches and you mentioned your employment right now. And I think anybody in a large company has all those videos and stuff like that. So, but like what's kind of benchmarkable in schools. So maybe a little bit of education for us and what you do currently, like you just said, is great. That goes along with that. So especially when we change like a policy like 2 weeks ago on minor changes or big changes in like conduct policy or things like that. How does that get, besides an email out to the staff, how does that get re-educated to?
I wonder if there's, from like a measure, or I wonder if that's something that we, like I think of in a corporation, you have a board of directors, and there's different committees in the board of directors, but like you usually have to report out on like your ethics and compliance and harassment and all of that. Not specifically necessarily, but like in the aggregate, right? And so I wonder if there's a process, and I want to give this some thought, but like, is there a process where as a board and administration, we have that kind of regular cadence of, here's the things we did to prevent, here's maybe like X amount of complaints, and then these ones required discipline action, just like aggregate types of numbers, because right now we don't really, and I guess we don't really keep a baseline, right?
I think it's bullying is the only mandated reporting. Right?
Bullying is mandated twice a year, and then restraint and seclusion is mandated once a year.
And obviously we would want to be thoughtful about how we do that and connect, but I think if we did it like in an aggregate, as opposed to specific case by case, might give us a little bit more information.
Well, the only hard thing, right, is driving a number, and ideally a lower number is better. Making sure that we have the culture behind it, that for in the beginning at least, that number may go up as people understand and identify behaviors And so there's more reporting, and then ideally you can get to a point where it's not that things are being not taken and not reported, but it's that really there are fewer reports coming out.
The reporting system works, right? You would always expect somebody to be reporting something, right? I mean,
Originally, we'll just have to figure out a date, but we can do a doodle or something like that. Yeah.
it sounds like we're trying to angle it to that we have whatever action that you could be able to roll it out, at least begin for PD in August. So,
So I'd say a date would be like June or July.
Yeah.
Maybe July.
gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, but wait, there's more. 11C is the third reading of the policy JEFB, which is the release for religious instruction. This is our third meeting where we're reviewing the policy. There's been robust discussion amongst the board. I think my assessment is the board wants to get it right, so it's clear for all parties, those interested in participating, those not. Talking with legal counsel, they reminded me that it was supposed to be in place by April 9th, and so we're technically in violation of the statute. So one suggestion was that, again, we've read it 3 times now, is that the board picks one of these 3, either the base sample, version 1 or version 2, puts it in place, and then if continued discussion wants to happen, we're at least not in violation of the statute. So that's what I'm presenting to you today.
But I want to make clear that we understand this is state law, that the rights are protected, and that the district did release children when requested.
Yes, we did.
Yes, so we complied with state law. This is our policy that we need to enact today, just to find detail of that.
So,
Okay.
I mean, having policy is included in the state law, but the other elements of like people actually benefiting from the allowance was done. Yes. Yes. So the base sample is what OSB provides us. Version 1 is what we looked at, I believe, last month. And then version 2 had, I think, one additional based on the discussion we had last month, which was number 5, the individual receiving the release students must be listed as an emergency contact on each participating student. So we've been saying that's the expectation, but now the policy makes it clear that's required. So.
Just need to make a motion on what policy you want to adopt.
I think so, yeah. So someone motion to adopt policy sample, version 1, version 2, and then, but there could be more discussion.
About that one,
Yes.
number 5,
Yep.
for version 2. So the individual receiving, so is that supposing that it is a single person that's coming each time to get, and so and that one person is listed on an emergency contact? Or is it more like an organization? How does
It
that?
would be a individual's name. So our system allows you to put in up to 11 emergency contacts.
Okay.
So if a group that's running the release for religious instruction has 2 or 3 hosts or whatever they call them, they could have parents list all 3 in their emergency contacts. But that's actually an attendance policy where, you know, if you send uncle up to get him, well, we need to know that he's allowed to take them. So it's just confirming it within the policy where if someone's reading just this policy, they would see that. They don't have to travel over to other policies to get that clarification. Yep. But no, they can't just put a group. They have to put a person.
It's got to be a person.
Who's responsible? Who's the person responsible for that? Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thoughts, questions? I'd like to make a motion that the board accept release time for religious instruction policy number 2.
Second.
Mrs. Mast,
Yes.
Mrs. Hartley,
Yes.
Mrs. Henners, Dr. LaFay, Mr. Rager.
I do have a follow-up question. We talked in the fall about the do we need to define the core classes so they don't, if we want to have, music, arts, or anything defined as a core class, would we have to do something to change that wording in our policy? I'm sorry, I didn't have time to go look digging for it. But we could table it for next time. I mean, like you said, we could continue to talk about this, but
I need a core curriculum subject.
Yeah, the student is not absent from, but you wanna know if we have to like specifically say what our core.
and I know the
We talked
current
about
group's
that already.
intention was not to do that, but this is open for any group and any time frame.
Yeah.
So
We did talk about.
Yeah. So if someone called me tomorrow and said, "Hey, what are your core curriculum subjects?" I would say any time a student's in a class that gets a letter grade, that's a core subject. So lunch, recess, you don't get a letter grade. Art, gym, music, you do. So
Younger grades get letter grades.
well, I should say a report or a grade.
Graded.
Yeah, sorry. I shouldn't say letter
No,
grade,
I was
but-
thinking that, but it's also, I think, things like state mandated curriculum, right? If there are certain things that the state says, state standards, yes.
But the young grades just sounds like in terms of they get like a satisfactory,
Yeah, I guess they get that.
outstanding. That is a letter.
That is a grade.
It begins
yeah.
with an S. I've like an A, B. Yeah. I think you're right to say this. We're not designing this in reaction to one specific request. It's designed to be a program that lives and breathes, regardless of what the request is.
Are we satisfied with that definition of core curriculum?
We can add an addendum that says any class that receives a grade or as part of state standards.
All right.
here we go.
Do we have any, yes, do we have any new business to come before the board this evening?
That has a few things to do.
I'm just teasing.
We do have a second executive session. Motion to go into executive session for the reason of appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against an employee, official, or student, unless such individual requests a public hearing.
Dr. LaFay, Mrs. Henners, Mr. Rager,
Yes.
Mrs. Hartley,
Yes.
Mrs. Mask.
Yes. So we come back.